The day the aliens arrived was meant to be historic. It was supposed to mark humanity's grand entrance into the galactic community. Instead, it became the day Earth learned just how cruel the stars could be. Massive ships appeared over major cities without warning. They hovered silently, their dark hulls reflecting sunlight in ways that hurt the eyes. People gathered in streets, staring upward with a mixture of fear and wonder. News channels worldwide interrupted regular broadcasts to show the same incredible sight. "This is not a drill," announced President Wilson from an emergency bunker. "We are attempting to establish communication with the visitors." The aliens responded by projecting massive screens into the sky above each city. A being appeared, tall, with pale blue skin and multiple eyes arranged in a circle around what might have been a head. When it spoke, the words came through in perfect English. "People of Earth, you are now under the jurisdiction of the Galactic Council. Your planet has resources we require. Surrender now and accept your place in our hierarchy." World leaders quickly assembled a response team. Dr. Alex Morgan, Earth's leading xenolinguist and physicist, advised caution. "We need to understand their technology before making any moves," she warned. "Something about their translation systems suggests advanced knowledge of our brain patterns." But the Council gave Earth only 6 hours to surrender. President Wilson and other world leaders attempted to open diplomatic channels, requesting more time and information about this galactic council. The aliens responded with what they called a disciplinary demonstration. Without warning, beams of blinding white energy shot down from 3 of the ships. Denver, Osaka, and Cairo simply disappeared, replaced by smooth, glassy craters. Millions dead in an instant. "This is standard protocol for species that question council authority," the alien spokesperson explained, as casually as someone discussing the weather. "You have 3 more hours." Earth's military forces launched everything they had: nuclear missiles, experimental energy weapons, fighter jets. Nothing even reached the alien ships. Energy fields around their vessels absorbed or deflected every attack. In underground bunkers across the planet, surviving government officials made the hardest choice in human history. They sent a message of surrender. The aliens began landing smaller ships. They established bases and started mining operations. Humans were rounded up for labor assignments. Those who resisted disappeared. But humanity had not given up. Dr. Morgan, working in a secret facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, made a critical discovery. While studying a piece of alien technology salvaged from a damaged scout ship, she noticed something odd about its energy signature. "They're using a quantum resonance field," she explained to General Hayes, who oversaw Earth's remaining military forces. "It's incredibly advanced, but it has a fundamental weakness. Their entire technology is built on a specific frequency pattern. If we can disrupt that pattern." "Can we build something to exploit this?" Hayes asked. Dr. Morgan smiled for the first time since the invasion began. "We already have the basics. Our old HFY arrays were experimenting with similar principles. With modifications, we could create a resonance cascade that would—" "In English, Dr." Hayes interrupted. "We can build a weapon that will shut down their technology. All of it. Simultaneously." Word spread through secure channels. Earth's surrender was a deception, buying time. While the aliens believed they had conquered a submissive species, humans were secretly preparing. Factory workers sabotaged alien mining equipment. Scientists gathered data. Military personnel formed resistance cells. The Council aliens never noticed. To them, humans were just another primitive species, barely worth attention once controlled. They didn't see the determination in human eyes or recognize the significance of small acts of defiance. They would learn soon enough. Earth was not beaten. Earth was waiting. And Earth would have its revenge. 6 months into the occupation, the Galactic Council believed Earth was firmly under control. Their reports back to Central Command described humans as adequately subdued and lacking technological capacity for meaningful resistance. The aliens had established massive mining operations across all continents, stripping Earth of rare minerals and biological samples. What the Council didn't know was that humanity was far from defeated. Deep beneath the Antarctic ice, in a research station converted to a military headquarters, Dr. Morgan worked tirelessly. Her team had grown from 5 scientists to over 100, all working on what they called Project Thunderclap. "The frequency disruption device is almost ready," she told Admiral Reed during their weekly briefing. Reed had emerged as Earth's de facto military leader after most of the command structure was wiped out in the initial attacks. Reed studied the blueprints. Will it work on their ships too, or just ground technology? Both, Morgan replied, pushing her glasses up. Their entire technological foundation relies on the same quantum principles. Once we activate this, everything they have within the affected radius will simply stop. Meanwhile, across occupied territories, humans played their parts perfectly. They worked in alien mines with heads down, seemingly accepting their fate. The Council enforcers, tall insect-like creatures humans privately called beetles, patrolled the labor camps with energy prods, punishing any sign of disobedience. What the beetles didn't realize was that many of the accidents in the mines were carefully orchestrated. Each damaged piece of equipment provided humans with more alien technology to study. Each power fluctuation allowed resistance members to test alien response protocols. In Moscow, a council commander named Drix addressed his subordinates. These humans adapt quickly to labor roles. Their biological makeup allows them to work in conditions many species cannot tolerate. Some units report small incidents of sabotage, responded his lieutenant. Drix dismissed this with a wave of his triple-jointed appendage. Nothing concerning. Their primitive military was completely neutralized. Without coordination, what threat could they pose? That night, in a secret meeting beneath the ruins of London, resistance leaders from 6 continents gathered. Maps covered the walls, marking alien installations worldwide. A woman named Grace, formerly a telecommunications engineer, presented their latest intelligence. "We've identified their central command node in what used to be Geneva," she explained. "If we can hit that simultaneously with their 7 largest power generators, we create a window of confusion." Reed nodded. Dr. Morgan's device needs to be deployed during that window. The problem is getting enough units manufactured and in position without detection. An old man who had once been a factory owner spoke up. "My people have been modifying the components they force us to build. We've diverted materials for over 50 devices already. The aliens think we're just inefficient." Across Earth, similar preparations continued. Farmers hid equipment under their fields. Teachers secretly trained children in resistance communications. Hospital workers stockpiled medical supplies. Everyone had a role. The Council remained oblivious, their arrogance their greatest weakness. They had conquered hundreds of worlds before Earth and expected the same pattern of submission they'd always seen. They didn't understand human history, how humanity had always found strength in desperate situations, how innovation flourished under pressure. They didn't recognize that humans were unique in their stubborn refusal to accept defeat. During a routine inspection of Labor Camp 27 in what had been Australia, a beetle guard noticed a human staring at him with unusual intensity. "Return to work," the guard ordered, raising its energy prod. The human, a former Special Forces soldier named Tom, lowered his eyes immediately. "Yes, master," he said in the submissive tone the aliens expected. But as he turned away, Tom allowed himself a small smile. In 3 days, the first phase of humanity's counterattack would begin. The aliens thought they'd found an easy conquest. They were about to discover just how wrong they were. Winter had settled harshly over what remained of Paris. The once beautiful city now served as a processing center for Council minerals, its famous landmarks either destroyed or converted to alien use. The Eiffel Tower had been transformed into a communication array, its elegant shape now distorted by strange devices that pulsed with an eerie blue light. Below the streets, in the ancient catacombs that had sheltered the dead for centuries, The living now plotted revolution. "The northern sectors report ready," Lisa whispered, marking a map with a red pen. A former schoolteacher, she now coordinated communications between resistance cells across Europe. Asian networks confirmed deployment of disruption devices in all target locations. Admiral Reed nodded, his face illuminated by the dim light of salvaged LED strips. The underground chamber was crowded with 20 resistance leaders, each responsible for different aspects of the coming attack. "What about the orbital platform?" Reed asked. A thin man called Ben, once a satellite engineer, stepped forward. "We've modified 3 of their own atmospheric shuttles. The teams know it's a one-way mission, but they'll get the devices into position." Reed studied the faces around him. These people had lost everything: families, homes, futures, yet here they stood, ready to risk what little they had left. Human resilience never ceased to amaze him. Above them, Council forces continued their routine. Patrol ships flew predetermined patterns, scanning for unauthorized gatherings. In the Council's regional headquarters, formerly the Louvre Museum, Commander Grech reviewed production reports. "Mineral extraction is 3% below quota this cycle," Grech noted to his assistant. "The humans claim equipment failures," the assistant replied. "Their bodies are unsuited to working in the deeper mines." Grech made a dismissive gesture with his upper limbs. "Increase labor drafts by 10%. The weak ones will die, but output will maintain." This casual cruelty was typical of Council operations. What they failed to understand was that each death strengthened human resolve. Each new hardship forged stronger bonds among survivors. In Japan, resistance members had created a communication system using modified kitchen appliances. The frequencies were so primitive that Council scanning technology ignored them as background noise. Similar innovations had emerged worldwide. Older technologies repurposed because the aliens considered them too obsolete to monitor. Meanwhile, Dr. Morgan had completed the final tests on her disruption device. In the Antarctic base, she demonstrated its effects on captured alien equipment. "The resonance cascade creates a chain reaction," she explained as a piece of alien technology sparked and went dark. "Their quantum field collapses completely. Nothing with their basic technology will function within the affected area." "Range?" Reed asked over the secure video link. "Each unit covers approximately 5 square miles," Morgan replied. "But when activated simultaneously, they'll create overlapping fields. The effect should multiply exponentially." The operation had taken months to coordinate. Resistance members infiltrated labor camps, smuggling parts and information. Alien patrols were carefully tracked to identify patterns. Children too young to fight became messengers, their movements ignored by Council forces who considered human offspring irrelevant. On a farm in what had been Kansas, an elderly woman named Ruth helped bury disruption devices beneath fallow fields. Her arthritis made her hands shake, but she worked tirelessly alongside younger resistance members. "My grandchildren died in the Denver strike," she told a young man helping her. "I never thought I'd fight in a war at my age." "None of us expected this," he replied, carefully positioning the device. "But we're still here." That's something they didn't count on. Across Earth, similar scenes played out. Humans from all backgrounds, nations, and beliefs united in a single purpose. The Council had imposed artificial divisions, classifying humans by usefulness for various labor, never realizing they were strengthening humanity's most powerful trait: the ability to adapt and cooperate in the face of shared adversity. The day of uprising approached. In hidden places, humans counted down the hours. The Council, blind in its certainty of victory, continued to harvest a planet it thought defeated. They had yet to learn that Earth's most dangerous weapon wasn't technology, but hope. The attack began at dawn, Greenwich Mean Time. Across the planet, resistance fighters moved with perfect synchronization, a global dance of defiance 7 months in planning. In the Council Command Center in Geneva, alarms suddenly blared. The alien security chief, a tall being named Exalon, rushed to the central monitor. Multiple explosions reported at perimeter installations. Human insurgents detected in sectors 3, 7, and 12. Commander Draz, the regional overseer, seemed unconcerned. Deploy containment units. This is likely another minor uprising. Crush it quickly. Then the screens flickered and went dark. Communication systems failing, reported a subordinate, panic rising in its voice. Defense grids non-responsive. Outside, Dr. Morgan's disruption devices activated simultaneously. The effect was immediate and devastating. Alien weapons stopped working. Their vehicles fell from the sky. Communication systems went silent. The quantum fields that powered their technology collapsed in cascading waves of failure. In London, Tom led a group of former soldiers toward the alien garrison. The Beatles raised their energy rifles, only to find them useless. Confusion turned to fear as the humans advanced with primitive but effective weapons, steel pipes, hunting bows, and salvaged firearms. "They're just bugs without their tech," Tom shouted as his team overwhelmed the guards. "Take the building." Similar scenes unfolded worldwide. In Beijing, resistance fighters captured an intact mining facility. In Rio, humans overran the processing center that had once been the Olympic Stadium. Each victory fed the next as resistance groups used recovered alien communication devices to coordinate their attacks. Admiral Reed directed operations from a mobile command post, constantly moving to avoid detection by any alien technology that might still function. "Focus on capturing their ships intact," he ordered. "We need their FTL drives if we're ever going to take this fight beyond Earth." The Council forces fell into disarray. Their entire military doctrine relied on technological superiority. Without it, they faced a species hardened by months of occupation and burning with the desire for revenge. In New York, Grace led civilians in a charge against alien administrators trying to flee. "Remember what they did to Denver," she cried, and a crowd surged forward with a roar. Commander Draz, trapped in the Geneva headquarters, finally understood the scope of the disaster. Emergency protocol. All forces retreat to orbital platforms. Earth containment has failed. But the order went nowhere. Communication satellites had been the first targets of the orbital strike teams. 3 modified alien shuttles, piloted by volunteer suicide crews, had detonated disruption devices directly alongside the main communication hubs. By midday, humans had captured 5 Council ships intact. By evening, they controlled most major Council installations. Alien forces either surrendered or retreated into wilderness areas, their superior biology their only remaining advantage. Dr. Morgan arrived at the Geneva Command Center as resistance teams secured the building. She walked through halls filled with alien bodies, some killed in fighting, others by their own hand when they realized defeat was inevitable. In the central command room, she found Reed studying alien star maps displayed on emergency backup systems. "It worked better than we hoped," she said, looking around at the captured technology. "Their quantum systems were even more vulnerable than I predicted." Reed nodded grimly. "We've won the battle for Earth, but the war is just beginning." He pointed to the star map, where thousands of Council worlds glowed in blue light. "They'll send more ships when they realize what's happened." "Then we better be ready," Morgan replied, already examining the alien navigation systems. "These ships have detailed information about Council defense systems. With what we've captured today, we can build our own fleet." Outside, humans celebrated their first major victory. Families reunited. Prisoners were freed from labor camps. The alien yoke had been thrown off, at least temporarily. But the leaders knew this was just the beginning. The Council would respond with overwhelming force once news reached their central worlds. Earth had perhaps months to prepare for the real war. As night fell, humans looked up at the stars with new understanding. The universe was hostile, but humanity had proven itself more dangerous than anyone, including the Council, had imagined. The counterattack would begin soon. Earth was coming for the stars. 3 months after Earth's liberation, The first human battle fleet assembled in high orbit. 6 captured Council vessels had been modified with Dr. Morgan's technology, their sleek hulls now bearing Earth's new unified emblem, a phoenix rising from a planet. Admiral Reed stood on the bridge of the flagship, renamed Defiance. Through the viewscreen, Earth looked peaceful, its blue oceans and white clouds giving no hint of the devastation below. Nearly 1 billion humans had died during the Council's occupation, but those who survived were rebuilding with remarkable speed. Final system check complete, reported Captain Lisa, formerly his communications coordinator and now commander of the ship's operations. All vessels report ready for jump. Reed nodded, his weathered face solemn. Send the message to Earth Command. Operation Retribution is commencing. Their target was Outpost Krell, the nearest Council military installation, and the staging ground for the original invasion fleet. Intelligence gathered from captured databases indicated it was lightly defended. The Council never expected to face counterattacks from lesser species. Initiating FTL drive, Lisa announced. The stars on the viewscreen stretched into lines as the human fleet made its first journey beyond the solar system. The jump took 17 minutes. When the ships emerged, a ringed gas giant loomed before them, its upper atmosphere dotted with floating structures. The Council outpost. They've detected us, Lisa said, monitoring alien communications. They're confused. They're asking for our identification codes. Reed smiled grimly. Send them our response. The Defiance fired its main cannon, a weapon of Earth design married to alien power systems. The energy beams struck the outpost's central command platform, cutting through its shields like paper. The Council had never updated their defensive systems to counteract Dr. Morgan's frequency disruption technology. All ships engage targets, Reed ordered. Remember the plan. Capture their communication hub intact. The human fleet moved with unpredictable patterns, confusing the Council defenders who relied on standardized combat algorithms. Earth's ships darted between the outpost's structures, firing precision strikes to disable rather than destroy. On the station, Council Commander Vex watched in horror as human ships systematically dismantled his defenses. Impossible, he hissed to his subordinates. These primitives couldn't have mastered our technology so quickly. They're broadcasting on all frequencies, Stir, reported his communications officer. They're transmitting images. On every screen throughout the outpost appeared the same footage. Council ships destroying human cities, alien overseers whipping laborers in mines, mass graves of humans worked to death. The final image showed Earth's new fleet with a simple message. Remember Denver. The psychological impact was devastating. Many Council species had never been told the truth about how conquered worlds were treated. Some younger officers immediately surrendered, refusing to fire on the human ships. Within 4 hours, Outpost Krell belonged to humanity. Reed walked through the captured command center, where Council prisoners watched with mixtures of fear and disbelief. Secure their database, he ordered. I want everything they know about Council defense plans, fleet positions, and homeworld locations. A young lieutenant approached. Sir, we found something interesting. There are records of communications from other occupied species, beings the Council conquered before they found Earth. Some appear to be resistance movements. Reed's eyes narrowed. Open communication channels to these coordinates. Tell them Earth has broken free, and we're looking for allies. Across the station, Dr. Morgan worked with her team to integrate more alien technology. Each captured facility expanded their understanding exponentially. Council technology was advanced but stagnant. They hadn't faced real challenges in centuries. Their entire defense network uses the same base protocols, she told Reed that evening. With what we've learned here, we can penetrate deeper into Council space without detection. Reed nodded, studying the galactic map they downloaded. Our next target will be their regional headquarters in the Arcturus sector. That's where they coordinate control of 17 subjugated worlds. As human crews secured the outpost, news of Earth's victory spread through hidden channels across nearby star systems. On planets long crushed under Council rule, enslaved species looked up at their skies with the first stirrings of hope. The humans were coming, and they brought with them something the Council had never expected: the fury of the righteous. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council fell silent as emergency alert signals flashed across all communication screens. High Counselor Zeth, supreme leader of the 1,000-year-old interstellar government, rose from his ceremonial seat with visible agitation. "What is the meaning of this interruption?" he demanded, his translucent skin flushing dark purple with anger. A military commander rushed into the chamber, breaking centuries of protocol that forbade armed personnel in the sacred space. "Forgiveness, High Counselor, but Arcturus Regional Headquarters has fallen. The humans have taken it." Murmurs of disbelief swept through the gathered representatives of 200 member species. Arcturus was no minor outpost. It was the administrative center for an entire sector, heavily defended and considered impregnable. "Impossible," Zeth hissed. "These primitives were contained, their planet quarantined." "The reports are confirmed," the commander continued, mandibles clicking nervously. 17 subjugated worlds in that sector have declared independence. The human fleet has grown to 27 vessels. What the commander didn't say, what the Council would soon discover, was that Earth's victories had inspired something far more dangerous than military defeats: hope. On Velnar, a planet conquered 3 centuries earlier, the native population watched bootlegged recordings of human ships destroying Council cruisers. In hidden gatherings, they whispered about the species that had accomplished the impossible. "They were primitives like us," said an elder Velnarian to the gathered crowd. "Yet they defeated their occupiers in months. If they can rise, why not us?" Similar scenes play out across dozens of worlds. Council rule had always relied on the belief that resistance was futile. Now that myth was crumbling. Back on the Council homeworld, emergency sessions stretched into days. Reports of uprisings flooded in faster than they could be addressed. Military commanders demanded more resources while planetary governors begged for protection. "The humans are using our own technology against us," reported Admiral Krex, Supreme Military Commander. "But they've modified it in ways our scientists don't understand. Their disruption fields render our weapons useless. How many ships do we have available to crush this rebellion?" demanded Counselor Yorin, representative of the militaristic Hern Dominion. "That's the problem," Krex admitted. "We've never needed a large centralized fleet. Our forces are scattered throughout the galaxy, maintaining order on hundreds of worlds." The truth, which many counselors were only now realizing, was that the Council's empire had grown too large, too dependent on technological superiority and the myth of invincibility. They had no strategy for facing a determined enemy who could neutralize their advantages. Meanwhile, Admiral Reed's fleet arrived at Bentar, a mining world whose population had suffered under Council rule for generations. Instead of attacking, the human ships broadcast a simple message: "We offer you freedom. Join us or remain neutral. We fight only those who support the Council." The Bentari government surrendered without firing a shot. By the next day, former slaves were hunting down their Council overseers. Dr. Morgan, now holding the rank of Science Director, supervised the installation of disruption field generators on Bentar's surface. "Each world we free becomes a fortress the Council cannot retake," she explained to local leaders. "Your people will never be slaves again." News of humanity's approach triggered internal conflicts within the Council itself. Species that had been junior partners, barely better than the subjugated races, began questioning centuries of policy. "Why should we sacrifice our ships to protect your mining interests?" demanded the representative of the Tolari Confederation during a particularly heated council session. "The humans have offered peace to any who stand aside." "Traitor," accused a senior counselor. "The Council stands as one or falls divided." But the unity was already cracking. 3 member species withdrew from the Council that day. 7 more would follow by the end of the week. On the Defiance, Admiral Reed received reports of the Council's internal chaos with grim satisfaction. "They're starting to eat their own," he told his command staff. "Fear is spreading faster than our fleet could ever travel." The path to the Council homeworld was opening. What had begun as a desperate fight for survival had transformed into a revolution that spanned the stars. Humanity wasn't just winning battles, they were dismantling an empire. And they were only getting started. The planet Zenith, crown jewel of the Galactic Council, and home to its ruling elite for over a millennium, had never known war. Its gleaming cities and soaring crystal towers had stood as symbols of unquestioned power for generations. Today, those towers reflected the fire of burning ships in orbit. 47 human vessels, alongside 32 ships from newly liberated worlds, surrounded the Council homeworld. The once mighty defense fleet had scattered, with many commanders refusing to fight or outright defecting when they realized the Council was collapsing. On the bridge of the Defiance, Admiral Reed stood in full military dress, prepared for the most important moment in human history. "The Council chamber is hailing us," Captain Lisa reported. "They're requesting terms." A ripple of emotion passed through the bridge crew, not celebration, but something deeper. The cost had been too high for simple joy. This was vindication, justice, the fulfillment of a blood oath made when the first human cities burned. On screen, Reed ordered. The image of High Counselor Zeth appeared, his normally imperious demeanor replaced with thinly disguised fear. Flanking him were the few remaining loyal species representatives, their numbers drastically reduced from the hundreds that once filled the chamber. "Human delegation," Zeth began, struggling to maintain dignity. "The Council recognizes your military achievements and invites discussion of a mutual ceasefire." Reed's face remained stone. "There will be no discussion. There will be terms. You will accept them, or we will reduce your world to the same state you left ours." The human fleet had not fired a single shot at Zenith yet. They didn't need to. The planet's population had watched for weeks as the unstoppable human armada dismantled the Council's empire piece by piece. Fear had done what weapons could not. "Earth's representatives will arrive at your chamber in 3 hours," Reed continued. "Prepare to sign the documents of surrender." When the transmission ended, Dr. Morgan joined Reed at the viewport. The scientist whose discovery had made victory possible now served as Earth's chief diplomat. "Are you ready?" Reed asked her. Morgan watched the glittering planet below. "I've been ready since Denver. We all have." 3 hours later, Reed and Morgan led a delegation into the Grand Chamber, the first humans to ever stand in the sacred space of galactic governance. The vast room, designed to inspire awe, now felt hollow and powerless. Zeth and the remaining council members waited at the central table. Behind them, representatives from dozens of formerly subjugated species watched from the observer galleries, invited by the humans as witnesses to the council's humiliation. "The terms are non-negotiable," Morgan stated, placing a data tablet before the council. "The Galactic Council as a governing body is dissolved, effective immediately. A new galactic alliance will take its place, with equal representation for all sentient species." "Preposterous," sputtered a council member. "Some species are naturally superior." "That belief," Reed interrupted coldly, "is why we're standing here today, and your empire is in ashes." The terms continued. Reparations to all conquered worlds, trial of those responsible for atrocities, dismantling of the Council's military structure, and technology sharing across all worlds. Most importantly, a new law forbidding the conquest or exploitation of developing civilizations. "And should we refuse?" Zeth asked, a final display of defiance. Morgan smiled without warmth. "We've installed disruption field generators throughout your system. Your technology, your very civilization, continues to function at our pleasure. This isn't a negotiation. It's a courtesy notification." The signing took less than an hour. 3,000 years of galactic history changed forever by a species the Council had considered barely worth noticing a year earlier. As the human delegation returned to their ships, Representatives from dozens of liberated worlds approached them with messages of gratitude and offers of alliance. "What happens now?" asked the Bentari ambassador, his 4 eyes blinking with emotion. Reed looked at Dr. Morgan, then back to the diverse gathering of alien species. "Now we rebuild. Not as conquerors, but as equals. Earth didn't fight this war just to become the new council." That evening, as the fleet prepared to return home, Reed stood alone in his quarters, looking at a small photograph of Denver, the city he'd called home before the invasion. The victory felt both enormous and insufficient against such loss. A message from Earth interrupted his thoughts. "When are our heroes coming home?" Reed thought about the question for a long moment before responding. "We're not just coming home. We're bringing the galaxy with us." The stars would never be the same again, and neither would humanity.